So without further delay, I would now like to formally start the event and invite the Commissioner, Heléna Herklots, to open the webinar.
Yep, George and Bodar, good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to this webinar today on International Day of Older Persons, a day where we celebrate growing older and celebrate the contribution that older people make. But of course, this year it's been a year like no other, where we are also reflecting on the impact of COVID-19 on older people across the world. As well as being International Day of Older Persons, it's also 10 years since the Equality Act came into force, designed to protect people against discrimination. So it seems appropriate to start with a focus on older people's rights. And despite the Equality Act, despite it being International Day of Older Persons, older people's rights seem in a perilous situation. The last 6 months have shown how human rights in older age are perhaps not as hardwired as we may have thought, too easily ignored or removed, and too little known. And today, reflecting on the last 6 months and everything that we've all been through and learnt, how we can draw from that to work together to ensure that we leave no one behind. So I want to start with a thank you to the older people, the community groups and the public bodies that me and the team have engaged with over the last few months. We drew on these discussions, the wisdom, the ideas and the challenge for our Leave No One Behind report. And I also want to thank all those who've been working so hard in our communities and in our public bodies to support older people through this time. We called the report Leave No One Behind because that's how older people have expressed to me how they feel, and that's the risk as we look ahead. In the first 2 or 3 months of the pandemic, the word I heard most from older people was the word fear. Not just fear of COVID-19, but fear of isolation, of being left behind, of maybe not being valued as an older person. And this was particularly the case in relation to issues about DNA CPR, where people and it also reflected itself in how people felt about their access to the health service. So, for example, one older person said, "We are all feeling that if we do get ill as older people, whether we will get the treatment that we will deserve, or if we would be seen as dying soon, and if that would result in poorer treatment." And those issues and those feelings are still with us. And we need to reflect on those and think about how we can ensure that older people have the confidence now, and that older people know that they are valued as much as any other citizen. But we know also that we can work together towards an age-friendly recovery, where each and every generation is valued and plays its part in the healing and rebuilding that we will need. And there's some immediate actions which we've been pressing for, and others where we are working with others to make change happen. So we called early on for a care homes action plan, and we're expecting that imminently from the Welsh Government. We've argued that sections of the Coronavirus Act that risk limiting older people's rights should be repealed, and we continue to press for that. And we have argued also the importance of rehabilitation and reablement programme to assist older people who may have felt and may have experienced a deterioration in their physical and mental health. In the economy, we need to recognise the contribution of older workforce. A third of our workforce in Wales is now over 50, and 12% of key workers are over the age of 60. But we know that older workers are more likely to be made redundant in a recession and often find it more difficult to find work afterwards. So we need a dedicated programme to support workers to stay in work or retrain, and work to ensure that older people do not face age discrimination in the workforce. Alongside this, we need to recognise the poverty affecting older people, with 19% of older people relative poverty. We need a campaign assistance to help people get the pension credit that they're entitled to. But during the last few months, we have also seen some of the best of who we are, the way in which communities have come together to support people. And as we see, sadly, the increase again in coronavirus cases and more of our country in lockdown, we need to make sure, don't we, that we've learned and applied the lessons from the last 6 months. We need to make sure that older people can access essential supplies. We need to help community groups to provide support and, where possible, safely reopen local community resources. And we need to ensure that our communities are age friendly, removing the barriers that get in the way of older people being able to participate, and putting in those measures which enable people to get out and about, to feel valued and to be connected. And we've all come to learn how important digital connection is. But 41% of people over the age of 75 are not online. So further action is needed to enable people to get online, as well as ensuring that those who are not online are not disadvantaged. We mustn't get into a situation where it becomes almost impossible to access public services or to be a full citizen without being online until we make sure that everyone who wants to be is. And for some older people, lockdown has been particularly challenging and painful. For older people living in care homes who may have experienced the death of friends and who may still be separated from those they love and that make life worth living. For older people caring for loved ones, especially where they're caring for people with dementia and they haven't had the respite or the support that they would normally have had. Some of the most heartbreaking conversations I've had have been with older people exhausted and pushed to breaking point because of their caring responsibilities for a loved one. And we know also for some older people, the last 6 months has been a time where they've experienced abuse, domestic abuse behind closed doors, or experienced crimes being committed against them, where older people have been targeted for financial crimes linked to the pandemic. So as we look ahead, it can feel daunting, I think, for all of us. But we need to remember that we have much to draw on. The way that organisations have come together quickly to find solutions and make a difference. And my experience of that has been the over 30 organisations and older people that are now working with me as part of an action group on abuse to try and stop abuse happening, and if it does, to make sure the services and support are there. And we're making progress, and we're working in a way maybe we weren't able to 6 months ago. I think there has now, thankfully, been increased recognition and understanding of the value and importance of social care for each and every one of us, because all of us at some point in our lives is going to need social care for ourselves and our loved ones. And I hope that this recognition will lead to change, will lead to valuing people who work in social care, increased investment in social care, and a recognition of its importance for all of our society as well as our economy. And I've also been inspired really by the learning and solidarity across the UK and internationally amongst organisations representing older people. I've worked closely with other organisations across the UK, and today of all days, on International Day of Older Persons, a feeling of solidarity across the world as we celebrate what older people contribute to our societies and work together to learn from each other about how we can come through all the challenges that COVID-19 presents. And we've seen the kindness and compassion in our neighbours, in our friends, in our communities, and in our public services. And we will need to draw on all of this. So I want us to focus today on how we can work together, how we can share our experiences and expertise to make a difference, and how we can together pledge to leave no one behind.